Speaking of facelifts, downtowns across Arkansas have been undergoing a renaissance in recent years. Cities like Little Rock, North Little Rock, Conway, Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Fayetteville, El Dorado, and others have been sparked by developers interested in urban renewal. One of those developers is Greg Nabholz with Nabholz Properties. He's had his finger in the pie of many of those towns' redevelopments. He also wants to see the state make it more attractive to rebuild a city's inner core. I caught up with Nabholz earlier to talk about his efforts and his vision. Well, let's talk about downtown redevelopment, something you're passionate about. I want to talk about what has sparked its rebirth in recent years. Greg, why are we seeing the level of redevelopment in downtowns across Arkansas that we're seeing?
Well, it's part of a national trend that, frankly, we're starting to see just due to the aging of our population, the baby boomers, and of course the millennials, who are the children of the baby boomers. They represent the biggest demographic group in our country right now. It's about 160 million people. And I think if you look at the type of places they're wanting to live, is the downtown walkable neighborhoods, walkable communities where they can live and work and play and shop and do everything without necessarily having to use a car. Because of this, that you're seeing the effect on why people are returning, to the cities, and why you're seeing the cities with the momentum now all across, whether it's a small town or larger community, that are really concentrating on the redevelopment of their core, which the last few years that has not been. If you look at the last 50 years. So many communities, certainly a lot of them in Arkansas, have lost their central part of their city due to the sprawling of America, and that's a trend it's not sustainable anymore, and it's turning back around. So,
well, you mentioned some of the amenities downtown: live, work, play. You also talked about some of the demographics of people who find downtown appealing. Is it for everyone? And if not, who is it for?
Well, the thing is that I guess the biggest misconception is that people feel like downtowns for either the young out of college students without kids or the retired people, baby boomers who are also without kids. There seems to be a disconnect between just who can live downtown and what you're seeing here in Argenta, North Little Rock, and other cities in Arkansas, certainly as well as the rest of the country, is these communities are being developed so from the time you're born to the time you die, you never have to leave the neighborhood. And these lifelong communities is what it's all about. It's just going back to the way things used to be. And so when you say, you asked about it being for, it might not be for everyone. Certainly there's people that just have a choice that they just want to live out and don't want to live in an area like this. But for the most part, what we're looking at is designing communities for everyone from the time you're born to the time you're dead.
Tell me about some of the incentives that are in place and need to be put in place for some more investment. Obviously, there's some tax incentives that can be helpful, some infrastructure development, among other things. But what are some of the other major components that need to happen to make downtown redevelopment a little bit more enticing?
Well, in looking at across the state of Arkansas, there is still that, I guess, the cost factors or whatever the factor might be. I think there's people that investors need to have perhaps some more incentives, especially in some areas of the state, to make that investment in their community. We in 2009, the last session, the state passed a historic tax credits which provided for a 25% state income tax credit for historic renovation to buildings in the historic districts. There's a bill that's going to be introduced in 2011 that would provide for an investment tax credit of 20% for building in central business improvement districts, and that's would be, it could be a historic building, but it could also be a parking lot that a building is built on, or it could be a renovation of a building that does not meet the historic guidelines. So it's we think that's a needed investment for just giving another tool in the tool chest for downtown investment. Also, I think there's been other states. Kansas is a good example. They have what's known as STAR bonds, which is basically like a tax increment financing, but instead of using property taxes, you're able to use sales taxes, and especially local sales taxes, where that revenue can be put into a certain project, or you can create a district where they can levy additional sales tax for the purpose of improvements or some type of development there that will end up generating more revenue for everyone.
Well, I know at the federal level there's been an effort for more coordination between federal agencies. Here at the state level, we're seeing some coalition building kind of taking place. Tell me more about downtown Arkansas, what you're trying to accomplish, and how that may all play out if you're successful with that vision.
Well, we've seen a great example on the federal level of federal agencies that in the past have never really talked to each other and now working together. The Partnerships for Sustainable Communities is just one of those examples of taking HUD, Department of Transportation, and the Environmental Protection Agency, and they are all working together, pooling grant monies designed to be sent to communities who have that vision of creating a walkable, livable city. And on a state level, I think you're starting to have conversations between a lot of the state agencies that would be corresponding agencies to those federal agencies. But I think as a downtown Arkansas, one of the main things we want to do is get those, really try to encourage and hopefully work with all these state agencies to show and to demonstrate that by a lot of the things they're already doing, by all of them working together, maybe pooling some of their grant money, they can really make a impact on the state that we just haven't seen in the past. Something that is being totally left out of the conversation now that needs to really be brought in is the Department of Health, and that's both on a federal level, and a state level. Obesity in America is a huge problem, and frankly, one of the biggest causes of that is the way we've developed as a country, and people that are living, spread out, and that everything they have to do is buy a vehicle. Livable, walkable neighborhoods are a great answer to that. There's been numerous studies that have shown that the people that live in a walkable neighborhood or a place that they can get to without necessarily having to use a car all the time, they have a 50% lower obesity rate than the suburban counterparts. And you're seeing areas where people are actually moving in these neighborhoods. You're seeing the obesity rate going down with those folks. So what we've got is a monumental chance to change Arkansas, seeing that Arkansas is one of the highest states with as far as obesity rates go in this country, that we have a chance to really address that issue by the encouraging and the working together of creating these walkable communities.